Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We are the Quality Control Chicks.
Yay.
I was like, do you want to do it together?
My brain went to QC checks. I was like, it's not that one. I was like watching you as you said it.
No, I know. Were you like, which one are you going to say?
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, well, I could always cut it out if we got it wrong.
I think I'm getting better at it now. Like when people ask me about the podcast, if I'm just talking to people, I am saying it right now. And I'm like, yes, the Quality Control Chicks pod. If you're looking it up, that's what it is.
Yep.
Because I'm like, I don't want to mess it up and people go to look and they can't find it. So yes.
Yeah. We want people to be able to find it.
Yeah, please. Look us up, find it. We did actually kind of have a funny situation where I wonder if we're Google, like if we can look, see.
If we're on Google.
Googleable? Yeah. Google, is that the word? Googleable?
Yeah, I think so.
And I looked and it literally was just what came up was how, I guess, farmers measure baby chicks.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not
quite what we're all about.
Not in the same realm at all.
No, but to clarify, if you search Quality Control Chicks podcast, we do come up.
Yeah. It was so funny. It'll be cool when, people can talk about it more and we'll be seen in other places and it won't just be about farming chickens.
Yeah, ideally. We can start talking about farming chickens.
Oh, gosh, no.
It would help our reach.
No, they're too cute. They're too cute.
I know, I don't want to farm chickens.
No. I like chicken, but I don't want to. We're starting this so fun.
I like chickens, but...
Well, if we want to get into it...
Yes.
Before we kind of talk about, what's kind of been happening in, what we've been watching on our own personal time, I guess that if we want to start with that before we get into the episode.
Yeah. This is probably the worst QC mistake I've ever seen in the wild.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. So I'm a huge Yellow Jackets fan, and I was super excited for the new episode to drop, the new season. Mm-hmm. And they luckily had the two back-to-back
the
episodes.
First two. Mm-hmm.
So I watched both in one night and immediately messaged Lisa and was like, you need to see what's in episode 2. There is such a bad, not anymore.
They fixed it.
Unfortunately, for people who want to go look at it. But
unfortunately for people who want to go look at it, but fortunately for the people that let it slip through, it's gone. But it took more than 48 hours. It was still there a good, the episodes came out on the Friday. I did a scrub through before I watched, on mute, so I didn't have anything spoiled. And it was still there. And then I didn't watch it until sometime later on the Saturday. And then I checked again Sunday. And then I'm pretty sure by the time I checked Monday in the evening, it was gone.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
someone had to.
I was even on the Reddit and normally, because I'm on there even just to look up theories about the show and this and that, and I didn't see anything, so I feel
which is crazy to me because it's so it's so you can't. There's no mistaking that that's a mistake.
Yeah,
there was just a screen. I'm going to cut it in, but to describe it, there's a scene where adult Van and Thaisa are doing karaoke in a living room. And then it cuts to a shot that just says no data for a good 20 seconds or longer. And then it just goes back into the scene.
Morning. So, I'm actually feeling a little bit bad about last night. The sex part? No, but the dine and dash part.
Yeah, you hear their audio continuing through it. So it wasn't just a cutout. It was clearly the scene was supposed to still continue on.
Yeah.
But then there was just this like image, no data. And usually when you see things like that, because similar to like, when we used to QC, you'd see a big screen that would say, media offline
or something.
And that's usually
not supported.
Yeah, your clip like didn't actually link in, and then it unfortunately gets exported out that way. Mm-hmm. And you can see that. But the media offline is like this big bright red screen. Yes. So it is very obvious. But this is also obvious in that, like, for the first second, I'm like, maybe this was just supposed to be a cutout to black. And then for some reason, my screen, like, I was thinking, oh, maybe something with my screen, my TV, like, what's going on here? And then
you go back and it does the same thing.
We replayed it. We went back and it was still there. I'm like, no, that's in it. And then to double check when I messaged you, I went on the iPad as well because we were watching on TV.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, to confirm it's not the TV, bring up the iPad. Let's watch it on a different media source. Mm-hmm. And it was there too. And then so I'm like, yeah, when you go to watch it, look for it in that scene. It's so bad.
I saw it like when I scrubbed, and then I saw it when I actually watched the episode. And like what's crazy too is that I didn't know, because so myself, you, Jack, and Harrison, so both of our partners, we all work in film in some degree. None of us knew where that error even comes from. Like, I've never seen it before, not that one specifically, because Avid's looks different to Premiere's, looks different to Final Cuts, to, Resolves. Like, all these different programs have their own, like, special I tried to, like, Google it. I was like, DaVinci Resolve error message, but then it was just giving me, like, people who'd created error messages in like programs. I was like, no. And I couldn't find it. I don't know. I thought it was VFX because I assumed maybe it was a shot of the karaoke screen because the no data thing itself was small in the screen. So I was like, okay, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
But when they fixed it, I don't know if they recut it or if like maybe they swapped out a shot and had to edit around like the audio that was there just for a quick fix or something. But there was nothing that jumped out that was like, oh, that's what was causing the problem.
Why there would be, because like when that happens, it's generally like there's a layer above in your edit timeline, right?
Yeah.
That's the dropped in visual effects shot or like a title or something that would cause this like sudden dropout of media offline or no data. But there didn't seem to be something that would indicate that happening.
No, and like if I can, I mean, it's such nothing really happens. I mean, something happens at the scene, but like for context, like when I'm pulling clips, it's from YouTube and stuff, right? So we have what you filmed of the error. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the actual scene without the error in it.
Yeah.
But if you watch it now, at least on Crave, because that was the other thing I thought of is we're in Canada, so we have to watch it on Crave.
Yeah,
I wonder if it was a deliverable thing. So maybe we weren't seeing anything really of it online because it was just the way it's streaming in Canada that had the issue.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It might not have been everybody being
because I don't know where Showtime lives on streaming in the US. So
yeah, I'm actually not sure either.
Because I'd be shocked if it went to regular cable that way. I mean, maybe it did, but then I feel like we would have heard more about it online, so I don't know.
Because it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
When you go to watch the clip, it's pretty obvious. I am shocked that it went through people.
Yeah, someone probably got fired.
This is the third season of the show, Satus, right? So it's big. It's getting bigger. It's probably not the biggest.
It's probably the biggest show Showtime has.
Yeah, exactly. And it's buzz. Everybody is...
No pun intended on the buzz, but
there was definitely pun intended.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
I'm allowed to have that one.
All right, I'll let you have it.
But yeah, that was a bad one, and it was funny because I'm like, I said to Harrison, I'm like, this is the stuff. This is why we do this podcast. Like, this is going to be such a good thing to bring up.
I know. And I don't know how many people actually like watch Yellow Jackets either, because I posted on our story that we had found a problem as we were watching something that just came out and that we were going to talk about it at the top of this episode. But I didn't get, not that our podcast is like so popular that we're always flooded with DMs, but like I was just like, if anyone notices it, let us know, and no one said anything. So I don't know if people just aren't watching the show, or maybe it was fixed by the time they watched it or something, or it blows my mind that people could just not, with that one in particular, notice it. Like the other stuff we've talked about, like Wednesday and things like that, like other things we've noticed real time, I get people not noticing it.
Yeah.
That one though, it just like...
Yeah, you don't have to have as critical of an eye. As long as you're looking at the screen, you're going to see it.
If you're watching it, if you're paying attention while you're watching it, it's hard to miss. It's crazy. I've been waiting to talk about it more after, like, the initial exchange of, holy shit.
Yeah, it was a good one for the pod.
Anything for content.
But today, we're actually going to be talking about CGI.
Yeah.
So kind of, we thought maybe it would be tied in, because if it had been if it
was at least a VFX shot
or effect shot, but it wasn't. I don't think it was.
So lucky.
It didn't tie in quite as well, but we had to talk about it.
It didn't give us a segue into this week's topic, but it did give us something to talk about at the beginning.
Yeah.
So
CGI.
Bad CGI.
How distractingly bad it can be and take you out of it.
One thing I will say is this is probably one thing where there was a lot to research. So when I was setting up this topic originally, and sometimes these can run long, like there's stuff that we cut while we're recording, stuff I cut later for time so that it's not a 2-hour podcast. Or if it goes too long, then I'll make it a 2-parter, like what Scream ended up being, a 2.5-parter. This is going to be like a 3-part spread out, like from the planning stage, because I had to make one that was just entirely examples from superhero movies. And that might honestly just end up only being the MCU.
Yeah.
Because as I was putting this one together, I was like, okay, no, this is going to end up being like 4 hours long, and most of it's going to be Marvel. So just to say that on the onset, we know it has plenty to talk about, but it'll have to be its own thing, because we're just going to end up talking forever if we include it in this segment. So it's general TV and movie bad CG examples that we could primarily find, and then like there'll always be more stuff. So maybe we'll talk about them more. But just so that's been said, we know there's superhero movies have a whole host of examples. It's going to have to be its own episode.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, to start us off, I think we can delve right into something we've kind of talked about already, but the other side of it. So with Chuck Esme, we talked about the really terrible dummy animatronic doll, terrifying doll that they used and we're going to use.
I have to remind myself the actual character's name isn't Chuck Esme.
Renesmee,
which is also
Renaissance. There was a bunch of like stupid names people were making up for, because they were like, what is this name? It's like a combination of a bunch of different names. It doesn't make sense.
Renee and Esme, I guess.
Yeah. Terrible name. And a creepy looking doll.
Look, speaking of terrible names, I'm so sorry. I have to tell you this because it's been a minute since I've seen you.
Yeah. So
there's a commercial that keeps airing. I can never find it when I'm looking for it, but it always comes on when I'm watching YouTube right now.
Yeah.
They're like talking about what they're going to call their baby, and then they're like, oh, if it's a boy, it's going to be Crispin.
Yes.
And then we always skip the ad after that, so I don't know what it actually is. So my brain's like, speaking of bad baby
I need to go look that up, because
I don't know what it is. I think it's Remax or something.
Well, for the audience, I want my child to be named Crispin.
If it's a boy.
I've always wanted it, and people always tease me about it. I'm like, I don't care. It's going to be, if my kid had the name Crispin, it would be so... You just know they're going to be destined for, like, a very interesting, successful life. Because they have to, you know?
They're going to have to with that name.
No one will have that name.
No.
It's very unique.
He should go by Chris. I grew up having a
unique name, too. And it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, my child will be Crispin.
Well, even commercial copyright is making fun of you now, so.
No. We're going to change that whole stigma around the name. It's going to be great.
Crispin and Chuck Esme would be good friends, I think.
Stop. No.
But anyway, they scrapped the Chuck Esme for CG.
They knew that doll was bad, and then they went in with
full CG.
Full CG, which we have to talk about because it was equally, maybe not equally as bad as the creepy doll. I wouldn't say
equally as bad since that's what they actually ended up using.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, again, I've not watched any of the Twilight movies since we last discussed the Chuck Esme issue, but I have the actual scene from the movie that I'm going to cut in, and it's just like it's kind of like what we were saying with that discussion, is that I don't know how you could make an older looking baby not creepy, whether it's CG or animatronic or not. Like, they would have still, even if it was a real baby, they would have had to enhance it with CGI in some way, unless they just like shot it in a way where you don't really see the kid's face or something. But
it was one thing when, you know, some things in books just do not translate to screen.
Yeah.
And it was one that didn't, and they should have just gone with a real baby.
They could have just, like, shown us some scenes where the baby is just a baby, and then, like, everyone else is the same age, but, like, a couple scenes later, they're doing something else, and it's a different actor, slightly older, meant to be the kid.
Yeah,
like,
to show the progression of age.
I think people would still get it.
Yeah,
you know?
they definitely would.
People aren't that stupid.
Yeah.
Especially, like, the people watching the movies are the fans.
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone knows already.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're watching it with someone who does.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
or like maybe the characters even talk about it. I don't know if they like are like, yeah, they rapidly grow.
Yeah, they talk about it a lot.
So yeah, then
they're like, she was just a baby. Like, what's going on? So I mean, they could have easily gotten around that. They decided to go with terrible CGI. I don't know if it was just because after the doll thing, it was like the next. I mean, they already had shot a lot of it and a lot of the scenes. So it was like, you know, finding a child actor would have taken some time, I guess, a baby actor.
Well, they had one, and they were like, the baby was being fussy. So they were like, animatronic time, I guess. And then they were like, no, that's creepy as fuck. Let's just do CG instead. Fix it in post. They said, we'll fix it in post, basically, is what they did.
I mean, cult classic film for a reason. So weird, but so good.
Most cult classic films are cult classics for a reason.
Yeah.
It's usually something in that vein.
And it's usually because of a creepy doll child.
Yeah, although...
something terrifying in that element.
Would we call our next example a cult classic?
No. Definitely not.
No.
I mean, not for me.
Again, this is like, if we ever do merch, we're going to have to do a t-shirt that says, I don't know, I've never seen it. I haven't seen The Scorpion King. I'm so sorry. I've seen The Mummy, but...
Yeah. So I've seen The Mummy. I haven't seen the full Scorpion King, but because when I heard how terrible... the face is, like, everyone was talking about it, so I went and I watched, like, the scenes with it when it came out, and when everyone was, you have to see this, it's so terrible. So I went and watched it in that way. But
exactly, yeah.
Not cult classic level. Didn't get me to go see the film.
It might be just one of those examples where the whole movie didn't become a cult classic, but that scene, in a way, did. Because The Rock is such a big actor now that I feel like people are going to be like, oh, what else has he been in? And then they're going to be like, the fuck is this? And then if they even look it up a little bit, like, that clip is everywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, wait, is that it?
I don't know what that is.
What is that?
Like, it's one of those things, too. We've watched, I think Jack and I have a bunch. I'm not sure if you've watched too many of them, but, like, the Corridor Crew channel, they do breakdowns of good and bad CG in movies and TV because
I don't think I have.
They do VFX. They're VFX like channel.
Oh wait, are those? Oh shoot, those are the guys. They'll do because they broke down like the alien Romulus thing, which we're going to talk about.
Yes.
In this episode.
And they did.
So yeah, I do know them. Yeah.
They did a video talking about it. And then I don't know if it's the same episode or if they did like another one, but I know at some point they like tried to improve it. Like they tried to see what they could do to fix it. And it ended up looking a lot better. But that's with like newer technology. This movie came out in like the 90s, right? So, and it had way lower budget than The Mummy did. So, like even then it's known for like people trying to like make it look better, even if the creators, it's not, because it's not Star Wars, you know? Like they're not going to go back and fix the actual movie.
Yeah.
If they do a 4K like release of the Blu-ray, I think they're going to leave it as it is, you know?
Yeah.
But it was so bad that people who like do breakdowns of VFX for a living and actual VFX, but I mean like their channel, their most watched videos are when they do the criticisms or the praise of good or bad CG. And the fact that they like did a whole thing where they like deep faked The Rock and went in and tried to like fix the shadowing and the lighting and everything.
Yeah, that lighting is something else.
Lighting is one of the biggest tells in bad CGI.
If it's drawing your eye to it intensely, like it stands out in a scene, because it's the whole thing about CGI, it needs to really blend into its environment. You don't want it to disappear.
No.
But you want it to be in the same world. You need to have the lighting be the same as the environment. And then you also need to like make sure that like even texture of what you're shooting. So like if it's a 90s film and the way a 90s film feels, and then you have this like smooth, weirdly bright lit CGI face onto like it just does not.
It doesn't match the environment and it doesn't look good on its own. It just
stands out so badly that it's all you can see. Like it's just, it needs to blend and it needs to, even if there was like grain, like you can always add like grain and you can bring down
because
the look of it a little bit.
This creature too, like it's part human, part something else. So if you can't get the skin texture right, you could like try and go a different direction with it, at least add something so it's not just like, like super smooth. And if it's going to be super smooth, it's still going to have some kind of texture to it.
Yeah, texture can save something like that because it's like, again, that like, if you look at his face, it's almost like baby smooth.
Yeah, it's like
and
he was just born.
Even that doesn't make sense.
No. And again, if that's a character choice, like dim the lighting in a scene. A lot of times, if you can't do something in post and CG, you just like light the shot to be dark so that you don't have to do as much. Like you should still be adding those layers in, those textures and everything, but like make it so that you can mask it as much as you need to. Because if it's such a brightly lit scene, even like, you know, they're in like, you know, whatever location they're in, it could have been darker. Feasibly, they could have done that, and they didn't.
I think your next example on the list is from Harry Potter, which I actually kind of forgot because I haven't seen them in a bit. And I was like, oh yeah, like the troll, what's his name?
It's Grop.
Grop. And I had to go, because at first I thought, oh, is it the troll in the first movie?
No, because that was good for the time, and like you look back at it now and you're like, no, it doesn't look great. And same thing with like Fluffy and stuff like that from the first movie, but like it's not distractingly bad as we've sort of like categorized what most of our examples in this. The reason why Grop sticks out is because, well, one, it was like 4 movies later. It's the 5th movie, so 5 movies later, whatever. So the effects have improved in every other respect.
Yeah, there's like a higher level. To
you're
the
expecting a bit
point.
more. Even when I saw the movie the first time when I was younger, I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like,
why did they make the nostrils so big?
Why did they make any of it that? It looks like, you know, the Mad TV comics?
Yes. Yeah,
like the caricature? That's what it looks like. Even in the later movies after that one, there's examples of CG that's not the best. But that one overall with the whole franchise just sticks out as being like, what the fuck were you doing?
Yeah, I think looking back on it now, such terrible design. He just stands out so much. I don't know why they approved it, but... And again, I couldn't even get the character right because it didn't look like it would be a giant. I thought he was a troll.
Exactly. They're trolling us with the quality of the CG is what's happening.
Nice. Nice. Good one.
I wish I'd say I planned that, but I didn't.
You're so quick-witted.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
One that I would love to talk about, you can talk about the next one.
Sure.
But Cats was like, when I saw that was probably one of the worst example of CGI I think I've seen of modern times, because that movie's, I mean, that's already been a couple years now since it came out, but that one was so bad that people wanted to be high to go see it because it was literally like an acid trip. For just how creepy those cats were.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen enough of it. And the thing is, too, again, it's one of those things where I could see how it works as a stage play. In what world did that need to try and be a movie? You know? Yeah. Or have it be like they're wearing cat suits and you just replace the seams in post. Like... It didn't need to be poor Dame Judi Dench. How dare you besmirch her damehood with that film?
Deuteronomy. Well, you know, I haven't seen I love musicals. I am a huge musical lover, and that is one of the musicals I've never seen. But I've also never really been interested to see it because I don't enjoy the music all that much.
The only song I knew from it, I didn't realize was from Cats because I heard it in School of Rock.
The Memory song?
Yeah. When... what's her name? All alone in the moonlight. And then they cut her off, and that's all I heard. And I was like, yeah, it's from School of Rock. And then I heard it in like a trailer or a clip or something. I was like, oh, that's from Cats.
Yeah, the comedy's even better when you realize, because you're like, oh, that kid picked the worst musical to sing as her audition. Like, Why Cats?
I know.
I mean, hey, I love Andrew Lloyd Webber. Like, I love Phantom of the Opera. It's my favorite musical. But Cats was on... must have been when he was doing heavy drugs or something.
Oh, I don't know how anyone could pen that and not have been on some sort of heavy drug, class A narcotic.
It's nuts. And then it translating to a CGI film was even worse. And
the thing I heard too about this is, and this is what bugs me about our industry too, is they were working on it up until like half an hour before it screened at the premiere. Clearly, the team was not given enough time to even try and make it look good.
No.
Because the original version came out where they just still had their hands.
Yeah, they had human hands. Yeah. And then, they decided, oh, well, let's make them more cat-like. And so then they gave them cat hands and then made their ears more moving around to twitch and this and that to give them more cat-like features. So I guess it wouldn't look just like a suit.
Sure.
But that made it worse.
It did, yeah.
It made it worse.
And release the butthole cut. Where are the buttholes?
The cat buttholes.
Like, look, if you're going to go through all the effort to give them hands and ears that, like, move around like actual cats, where are the buttholes? That's all I'm saying. I would watch it if you put the buttholes in.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the cat butthole magnets at your house.
I know. They're great. I have a crochet. I'll cut in a picture. I was antiquing and I saw this. It's like a local small business. I forget what their name is, but I'll put it on screen. And the one that we bought said asshole. And it was just a cat facing you could see his butt. And it was just, there was a little pink cross stitch on the butthole.
So do you think if they added the buttholes in, it would have made it better? Like, okay, well, they're more cat-like now.
Yeah.
They buttholes, but now they're actual cats. Now I can.
If you're gonna make them anatomically correct, then make them anatomically correct.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, the CGI did not help. I mean, for already odd musical,
Didn't help.
didn't help. I did see there is like a version that they recently made for the stage where they're not wearing cat clothes, like cat suits anymore. Now they're just wearing like just regular kind of more like streetwear. And then performing the song, like they still perform all the songs, but it's more like people in New York instead. So they're kind of like changing it from cats to be.
So they're changing the musical Cats to not be cats.
Not be cats.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are they just like cool cats?
Some people are liking it because they're like including like voguing and a lot of like kind of modern dance.
That's so woke.
Whoa.
Cats can't even be cats anymore.
No. Well, I think because people are traumatized.
That's fair. That's very fair. Jack is having mic troubles, so we won't be throwing cutaways to him as much this time because you won't be able to hear his feedback. But know that we would appreciate it, but can't have it this time around due to technical issues. We're not cutting Jack out of the pod. We just can't have him this time.
Sorry, Jack.
We'll hear what he thinks later. Afterwards, or we'll let him cut in his own commentary while he's mixing.
I guess I like cat butts too.
Yeah, the next example, I guess, was mine that I put in here. So it's sort of a smaller example, but sort of speaks to stuff we've talked about in previous episodes as well, is the remake of The Thing, because the original was practical. As much as it could have been. I mean, like most things, even movies that don't rely on CG characters and story points will still have like VFX in them.
Yeah.
Whether it's set extensions or like cleaning something up. There's usually something. The remake of The Thing was going to do all practical. Like they had shot it that way. And then they just thought, nope. And they completely redid it all in post.
Yeah.
And it looks... I don't agree with them doing that. Like, it's hard enough to remake a classic.
Yeah, and I think...
So, to go back on something that made the classic what it was and decide to completely replace it with CG didn't look good.
Yeah, and I just think something like The Thing was so cool to be practical. Like it would have been the movie to do it practically. And so I think it kind of like, I don't think it's probably like the worst example of bad CGI, but it's just more unfortunate that there was so much more potential there that could have been done. And as like horror movie lovers, it's like, why? We love practical, like go practical if you can.
As much as possible if you can. Like, again, like I said, it's very hard to do even like 99% practical. There's still going to be stuff that you're going to like tweak later. And like, that's just how it is. Or stuff you just can't do practically, but then you can do as much as you possibly can to know the stuff you're planning to add later and like make it as minimal as possible and all this stuff. But the thing about this one is like, there's footage that exists of the practical. And so when you see the side by side, it's like, like with the Scream stuff, it's like, I wanted to see that movie. Yeah. You know? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I feel like I'm saying the same thing I did about like why the rewrites ruined that movie for me. It's like, well, I want to see the practical cut of this film because people ridiculed the CGI because it looked bad. It looked rushed. It looked half-assed. It looked thrown together. It didn't look anywhere near as good as the practical. And again, like, yeah, practical can be clunky, but you could have just enhanced it. You didn't have to completely scrap it.
You know, you have the practical and you might just like add something with the CGI, just enhance it to make it look a little more real.
Yeah.
And together combined, practical and CGI is some of the best ways of doing effects.
And honestly, like, again, there's already going to be, this is what I don't understand about this example and why I wanted to put it in here was that movie, it's already going to have people nitpicking the shit out of it because it's a remake of such a classic film. So why would you give people more fuel to dislike and have issue with a movie that already didn't have to be remade. Just watch the original, which is like that is what I would rather do. Even if I like the actors in the remake and there's like, or the director or parts of it I thought were going to be really cool, like that's going to ruin it for me. It's like most remakes when they think like, oh, well, the only thing people want to see this time around is like what we can do with CG now. It's like, no, if you're going to remake it for any reason, it shouldn't be for that because they weren't even originally going to do that. So now you just make me want to rewatch the original and then your movie just becomes like a shit stain.
That's how I feel about a lot of remakes anyway.
Oh, for sure.
The original's better.
Always. Well,
that's how I feel about this one.
Not always, most of the time. Yeah, like, but you know, because they're even already rebooting the reboot, right? So like, we'll segue into Jurassic Park. This one, so there's a couple examples. I'm going to circle back to Corridor Crew real quick because they were the reason that I realized one of these mistakes in the first place was because they talked about it on one of their episodes of on their channel. And again, like I told someone recently we were going to be talking about Jurassic Park on the podcast. They're like, really? Why? Like it's so good. And I was like, you know, I agree the effects are good, but this one, it's like a mistake. Like it's a render mistake. So it's not that it looks bad. It's just that if you're paying attention to part of the movie close enough, you'll see that there was an error that made it into the film. It's not that it looked bad. Yeah. And then before we proceed in general, though, I have to say the unfortunate thing, like when we started the idea for this podcast, like we'll do like little mini movie reviews at the beginning and stuff now, but I didn't want to do a podcast about movie reviews or movie commentary and stuff like that because there's already so many of those out there. But the issue with doing research for this podcast sometimes is you do come across other people who have already talked about the same movies, and sometimes they get into some of the same stuff, even if they're more of a commentary or review channel. Yeah. So absolute full shout out to both Corridor Crew and Hack the Movies for these examples because I can't really talk about them or cover them. We can't really discuss them without giving credit because that is fully where...
Yeah, they pointed it out.
They pointed it out. They found other ones that we didn't know about. And so I just want to make sure that full credit is given where credit is due. A lot of the times I'm finding stuff that isn't stuff we came up with organically anyway, but because they had it fully fleshed out, and that's where I got a lot of this information. That is fully where these examples came from. But the render glitch was both covered by Hack the Movies and Corridor Crew. And that's a scene where, again, let me get this right. So there's one frame in a scene where the T-Rex has a raptor in its mouth. One frame where the raptor disappears.
Because there's one frame where the raptor is in the T-Rex's mouth where it just turns invisible. Probably should have used that invisibility cloak a little bit earlier, but only for one. I don't know. It's a digital glitch.
The technology being what it was at the time, it's so good. But if you were to do the same thing now, it would take like such a small fraction of the time. And that's where you get stuff like a frame glitch happening in a movie that's otherwise like pretty seamless with this stuff, is because that shot alone probably took like a few days to render on someone's machine.
Yeah, because like film was a whole different realm than what we're dealing with now digitally.
That's
like,
true, yeah. It wasn't even digital. It was,
you can do, you know, you're not wasting money on set if you take longer to shoot something, you know, and then when you get to post with film, it's even more complicated because you're dealing with actual little frames, physical media that can be destroyed easily. Things happen, shit happens, and like that one frame glitch, like the funny thing in that is when this movie came out, not everybody had access to being able to scrub through something like that.
No.
You know, you can't nowadays. You're on your iPad, you're on even your TV, you can't go frame by frame. But if you were watching something on your computer on a streaming site, you can go frame by frame and look for issues like that. But in a time like this, if you're not looking, nobody would notice a frame.
No. And that's the thing is like, if they're lucky it was just a frame because they would have had to spend more money, go back and re-render that shot, right? But it's such a quick thing that you don't notice it unless you're looking for it, which is the kind of the best kind of QC mistake because it's so, you can excuse it away and it's like, well, yeah, it makes sense why they didn't spend like millions more dollars to just like go back and spend 5 more days rendering a shot, you know, or however long it would have taken in the early 90s. But it's interesting when I've prefaced this movie enough by saying it's like, it holds up really, really well, but it is crazy when you do find that stuff out that it's like even the movies that are like near flawless after like 31 years at this point, 32 years, it's like there's still little things that just like because of the time period and because of the technology limitations, just there's still little things that slip through that people notice and put on a podcast.
Yeah, like it's one of those things that they wouldn't notice. No one would have even probably caught that then. And I mean, shout out to these guys for like seeing that. But again, because nowadays we can go and we can scrub through and you see things with a more critical eye and can catch fun little QC errors like that. It's so cool.
And you know what's also fun too is like I rewatched Hot Fuzz this weekend because it was Hot Fuzz Day. It's February 22nd.
Nice.
Because the whole scene in the movie where Simon Pegg's character goes up, there's a bar that's serving underage kids. And so he's a new cop in town. He's going around to the tables and like sussing out the teens he thinks are teens and shouldn't be there. And he goes up to one kid and he's like, what's your birthday? And the kid's like 22nd of February. And he's like, what year? And he's like, every year. So that has made the 22nd of February every year Hot Fuzz Day. And I just like... It's also one of my favorite movies. Like we've shared our Letterboxd on the Instagram now, and it's one of my top 4. Like it's just such a flawless movie. And rewatching it, I've seen it enough times that I was watching it with a critical eye this time. I was like, let's see if I can see anything.
Yeah.
But even down to like the blood splatter on his shirt, it is an almost QC mistake-less movie. It's kind of crazy. Even like down to that and like when they're having a pint, like the levels of beer.
Oh yeah.
It's like there's pretty much nothing. Like I noticed almost nothing. It's such an interesting part of our industry. I mean, it's why we have the podcast, right? Because you have polar opposites. You have movies that are like so terrible and have so many issues, and then ones that have understandable problems, and the ones that seem to have like almost no issues.
Yeah.
And like even Jurassic Park, all of the examples are so small. Like they're very nitpicky. Like if you notice, you notice. Like this other example of there's a dinosaur that's like clipping through the T-Rex as it emerges from a forest during a tax scene where like, again, Hack the Movie has pointed this out. Like, there's so much else going on in the scene.
The whole CG model actually clips through the T-Rex, and you can see the head come out the back.
It was new. But
I didn't realize that until like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Once you see it, I don't think it hurts the movie. It actually enhances like how revolutionary.
Yeah.
This was so new.
Yeah.
And this other one too, I think it was less busy of a shot, but this one's more an example of how we were saying with like Scorpion King may have looked better if the lighting was darker.
Yeah.
This one you probably wouldn't notice because although there's not a lot going on in the shot, it's a very dark shot. And with this one, it starts as like a, and again, it was probably like someone may have noticed it when the shot was in and gone like, well, that's $5 million to re-render, so we're not going to do that. We're going to leave it. It's just the slightest, like it comes into frame like this, and then it starts moving.
Yeah.
So it kind of like glides into frame from the bushes. It's so dark that you can't really
Honestly,
tell.
I don't even, it's not even that big of a deal, really.
No, and that's the thing that like makes this movie stand out as an example of like stuff holding up so well is like even those little things, it's helped by the lighting, it's helped by the composition of the shot, it's helped by so many other story points happening in and around it that it hides them so well that you don't notice unless you're combing through. It is a perfect film. Otherwise, we are in no way slandering Jurassic Park.
Well, that's the
at
one
least the
on
first
the
one.
stand. We've literally put it on a pedestal today. So it's the one of everything we're going to talk about in bad CGI. That's not technically that bad.
Know, though, that if I did have any physical media of the other things that we were talking about, I would have put it up here. But it just so happens that the most perfect movie we're talking about ends up getting literally put on the pedestal. Because a lot of these other movies, I don't think deserve to be physical media. If we want to jump back to what I called head and face replacements.
Yeah, head replacements are one of the biggest things you'll see in film for CGI use.
Yes.
Because, I mean, when it comes to background, set extensions, all that, I mean, that's all done a lot, but there's not as many errors as with face replacement. Face replacement it can be so obvious and it can be done so poorly.
And you know what, though? Because when it's really good, you don't know it's face replacement, right? And we're going to have a whole episode somewhere down the line. Maybe we'll record it next. I don't know. We always decide later which one we're going to do next. But where we're going to talk about body doubles and stunt doubles and things like that. And that's a lot of where the face replacement stuff comes in, because actors are required to oftentimes learn to a certain degree a set of skills that they are not professionals in. They're actors, right? But they might be portraying somebody who is a professional, whatever. Like this first example, they're a professional cellist. Well, Chloe Grace Moretz is not a professional cellist. No. She's an actor. So she can learn it as best she can. Same deal with, Jenna Ortega on Wednesday. I don't think they did any face replacing for that. But this role in particular, If I Stay is like, a cheesy, like, Notebook style, like, sappy, sad romantic movie.
But it's an important characteristic that she plays cello.
It's based on a book. It's important to portray that she's a cellist, and it's understandable that Chloe Grace Moretz couldn't learn to that level in time to fully portray that believably on screen. So they had a professional cellist come in and do a scene where she's auditioning playing the cello. It's just not good.
And I think we can tie in right away the I, Tonya for if people have seen that more. Like, that's such a good example as well, where it's the same situation. She, I'm sure she tried her best, like
Margot Robbie.
I'm sure Margot Robbie tried her best to learn how to ice skate as good as she could for the role to nail the role.
Yeah, because there's a lot of scenes with enough training you can get to a basic level. So there's certain skating scenes in I, Tonya that is just Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
But because this sequence was supposed to be Olympic level, Tonya Harding is like
extremely dangerous spins.
They wouldn't have had her do it anyway, because a stunt double would have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, they had no choice in having to do face replacement on.
It's either that or make the whole body CG, which I don't think would have been better.
Yeah, no, I don't think doing the whole thing CG would have been. And with I, Tonya specifically, because like with the If I Stay example, it wasn't very movement heavy. Like, it was very stationed, so for it to be bad was kind of a little bit inexcusable.
Yeah, because a lot of what came from the awkwardness of that was just the head moving unnaturally to the way the body was moving. It just didn't line up.
Yeah. But with I, Tonya, they had the camera team like going in and following and doing a lot of movement around her or the person who was doing the actual skating. So that when they did the face replacement, it was probably very, very difficult to get the alignment, to track that person, and when she's doing those fast spins, and you just see this like blurry, very uncanny valley looking face like coming through. It was very distracting. A lot of people didn't like it, and it raised the question of, did we really need to be that close to her face when she was doing the spins?
And if she's moving that quickly, I don't think you need to sprinkle in the bits to remind the audience that it's Margot Robbie. Like, those are instances, if anything, where it's easier to hide that it's not
Yeah,
her.
and that's a really good point, actually, because, you know, in some movies, and they just don't bother to do a face replacement, it's just the stunt double, and then sometimes you'll be like, wait, who the heck is that? Like, in, you know, Harry Potter, there's several examples where you freeze the frame and you're like, who's that kid?
Yeah.
Or who's that man amongst children? But it's just stand-ins, stunt people, or whatever. And
because the thing about film, and one of the most basic things that we were taught in school about editing is, and I'm going to forget the technical term because we've been out of college for a while, but it's the idea of like setup and payoff with the way you cut a scene. So if you set it up and show us that it's Margot Robbie, and then film it in a way that we've already established that the person who's skating is the person we've already just seen their face.
yeah.
The audience knows to associate those two shots.
Yeah.
And then similarly, coming out of the skate routine, you're seeing again that it's Margot Robbie. So you're following that through line through the sequence because you've already been conditioned you've been shown what you're looking at.
So now we have TVs also that can actually smooth out motion, which I think is what's causing a lot of difficulty for people when it comes to CGI and doing replacement, because you can notice things a lot more. Like we used to be able to get away with with the movement in your TV and it not being so fluid that you couldn't really tell.
Yep.
But now that it's so fluid, it's like, oh, that's
something's off.
Something's not right there. And unfortunately, I, Tanya, and I mean, there's no excuse for the If I Stay, in my opinion.
No, there's not.
I, Tanya, it's kind of like, well, they were hoping, you know, the movement wouldn't be as distracting, but it really was.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's also a difference of budget, too. Like, I, Tanya definitely had a bigger budget than If I Stay. So if there's just certain things you can't do, I would have just planned around it, or you shot her from behind. So if you do the face replacement, it's not as obvious, or something like that, or just keep the scene on the judges so you hear the cello playing and just watch their reactions as you know the character. Again, see her sit down, get ready to play the cello, focus on the faces of the judges or something, and like long enough that it's a duration of an audition piece. Because I think if you cut out too early, it's like, why even put that scene in there in the first place? Like, there's always ways you could have shot things differently, or just not. I don't know. I don't even think that book really even needed to be a movie, but that's like beside the point. But I mean, again, hindsight is always something you're like, I could have done this. It's like, well, yeah, but I mean, they didn't. So,
yeah, you just will. And I think I would love to segue into something that recently really threw me off with a face replacement that to me gave Uncanny Valley. It was so weird.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it ruined it for me, and that is Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
In a couple episodes ago, we talked about how we had both seen it and what we thought of it. And again, I thought it was a great movie. Unfortunately, there's a scene, and I mean, possible spoilers, I think we should say here. They bring a character back who was in an earlier
in the first film. So sequentially, it comes right after the first Alien movie in the timeline. So it's a newer film, but the story takes place like 20 years or whatever it is after the first Alien movie. So between 1 and 2.
And in this case, sorry, give me 1 second. I just want to find my spot here because I've got a lot written down on this one. So the character they bring back is Ian Holm's character. And he is, after the first movie, he gets, like, he's in the whole, like, explosion. And
yeah, so you're like, okay, his character's gone.
Yeah, you think he dies, but in this is kind of this big reveal, like, oh, he's still there. He's just been sitting on the ship.
Yeah.
That they end up going, like, this new crew goes on to. But because the actor is no longer with us and they couldn't do a de-age if he was still here, they could have maybe done that. But since he's not, they went the face replacement route on a doll. And it was weird.
Yeah.
It was so off-putting.
Yeah.
And I think what made it interesting, like the most interesting, was the version I saw on TV, or like, because I watched it on my TV, I just rented it.
Yeah.
And that was the fixed version.
Yes.
A version of it that went to theater apparently was worse.
It was.
I haven't seen that version of it. But people still really criticize this new version that went to home theater that people can rent. They're still saying, well, this is really bad. So what was in theater?
Yeah.
It must have been even worse. But yeah, I guess the director, after the theater release, he said, no, we need to go back and fix that. That's so bad.
It's a continuity of an existing story timeline. So you're trying to match as best as possible to something that was shot decades ago with not the same era of actor present or present in any way, shape, or form that you can use. So you're having to deep fake or CG or do whatever post-processing to make it look as close to the original iteration of that character as possible. And that's hard to do. So like even with the fixes that they made, like it's still not going to look like perfect. But like the fact that everything comes down to how much time you have, like, and the amount of people that you can pay and budget and everything. But like the fact that when it came out, people were still like, no, we can make that look better.
Yeah.
You can do that now.
And so I guess what happened with the situation was like they were using, like they were just, they did their version for the theater release. And then after, they were able to get their hands on his footage, or when they did the full facial scans from The Hobbit. And so because they got that, then they were able to go back and try and do a better job, I guess. I mean, my opinion, still not a great face replacement. Still super Uncanny Valley vibes.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that probably helped a little bit because then you have a little bit more to work with.
Yeah.
And it may not have been the right face, though, because when in The Hobbit, he was much older than he was in the first
so you've got the full
movie.
scans, but then you still have to de-age the full scans to match what you're originally going for.
Yeah, there's still a bit more work there. I will say, and I will note, aside from it being kind of weird, there's one shot, though, that I did think was really well done.
Did they make a puppet of Ian and then deepfake the puppet?
Nico, that is exactly what they did.
And it's like when he kind of first comes up, when you first see him in the scene, he's like crawling on this like desk. And they had like the dummy doll, and then they had a like puppeteer person, had their arm all kind of dressed up, and they were like crawling across the desk to like be the doll. And in that shot, actually, and I think it had to do with the lighting, because they lit it, it was a little more shadowed and, again, blended in better.
Yeah.
It actually looked pretty good. It looked creepy and it looked real. And I was like, that's what it should have looked like.
Yeah.
But then as soon as he props himself up on the desk more to talk directly to the main character, like, that's when he was in full lighting.
Yeah.
And it was, you can tell that it's unfortunately, the face replacement wasn't as great, but...
No, and like I think they shot it as intelligently as they could to account for what they were trying to do, because they were right to film it with as little movement as possible, because that a lot of the time is where you run into more obvious mistakes when you're trying to do something like that, even if you have full 360 scans of the person.
Exactly.
The movement is always what's going to be the most noticeable thing, whether it's like a facial movement or like a body movement or whatever. So the fact that this character is a robot. So like spoiler alert, again, for not even this movie, just even the original Alien movie, this character is a robot. His movement's already not going to be very natural.
Yeah.
But it's still going to look the most realistic when it's not moving.
Yeah.
As much.
Because in the first movie, he's looks like a human. Like
yes, that's the point you're not supposed to know until you do know, and then you're like, okay.
So in the movie Avatar, which was
the first one, I'm guessing?
Yeah, the first one, which was definitely in terms of CGI, it was one of the most like groundbreaking films for being like, it's just absolutely stunning. And then the, even like the mocap that they did was like so good. Like I would say overall, very seamless in terms of CGI, just beautiful. However, they were pretty good on scaling for a lot of the things, with the Na'vi people being very tall, very big, and compared to humans. But there's one scene at the end where when Jake's dying and he like puts his hand up to hold Neytiri's face.
That's Zoe Saldana?
Yeah, Zoe Saldana's character. And like his hand is the same size as her hand. But he's supposed to be he's supposed to be this little human. And even in this scene, she's like holding him like a baby. And he's supposed to be this little thing compared to her, right? But his hand is like full covering her face, on her face, and her hand's over, and it's the same size. It's bad. It's bad. And people called it out. They were like, when you do scaling, and they created that world. Like,
it's like so impressive. Pandora, like it's insane.
Yeah,
like
they thought of like scaling for everything. Like, this creature in comparison to this, and the world and the mountains, and then the
tail sex and
the tail sex.
It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, but
yeah, I will say I'm to this day still weirded out by the fact that they connect their tails sexually, but then it also connects to animals.
Yep.
Still don't
impressive but questionable,
Yeah, James Cameron, this is but
he's
weird.
not been canceled yet. But
do we consider that bestiality? That's
depends what you consider the Na'vi, I guess.
It's like
it's some of them.
Why
are
did that have to be how they had sex? I mean, it makes sense for the connecting with an animal. I was like, that's a cool idea, but did they really have to have sex that way?
Don't think about it too hard.
I think I did.
I mean, that's part of this podcast, but
yeah. But anyway, the hand, people were like, oh man, of all things, you were so close.
It's such like a pivotal emotional moment.
Yeah. He's like dying. They're having their last moment together. And it's the first time you see like the human and the Neytiri together, because a lot of the time you're not technically seeing them together, or he is the avatar.
Yeah.
So it was like your first real like, oh yeah, that is that is the scale difference of them. Like, yeah, they are so much bigger. Because you get used to
what size they are when they're just around each other.
Yeah.
So
in that moment, it should have been QC'd, guys.
Come on.
Who made that call?
you have so many years. I haven't seen the new one, and I don't plan on seeing
I haven't
the newer
kept up
ones.
with any of the new stuff.
But come on. Hopefully you fixed that.
Yeah.
The other thing they need to fix is, why did you use papyrus as your font? Like
I always think of the Ryan Gosling sketch. So good. Papyrus. Why is it papyrus?
It's the worst font other than Comic Sans.
Yeah, that's a choice.
That's a level 3 as we ease into the breakdowns of all this stuff.
Let's rate this shit. Yeah, so our ratings, we go by level 1, which would be, it's okay, like it's passable. We'd still note it, so we can still see it, but you can get away with it.
Sure.
Level 2 is more like, if you can fix it, you should.
Yeah.
You probably
like,
should.
come on, guys.
But again, it's not like shut this shit down. It's not the be all end all. It's probably okay.
Yeah.
And then level 3 is like, oh God, why did you leave that in there?
How the fuck did this slip through, or just who approved this?
Yeah.
Should not have approved it. I know it's not part of our breakdown, but the Yellow Jackets mistake, that is a level 3. And I'm not for people losing their jobs in this industry, because enough of that's happening anyway. But oh my God, I want to know how that slipped through, because that's bad. That should not be that way.
Yeah. But that's, again, like, that's why these jobs are important. Like QC, like what we did, like you and I would have been people who would have sat down, watched that, and noted those QC errors.
We're the last line of defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Before something gets out to the masses.
Yeah. We're making sure that shit's not in there.
If we'd worked on Yellow Jackets, that shit would not have happened.
Exactly. Give us a job, Yellow Jackets. Please. Just kidding.
I need steady employment.
But yeah, like that was 100% level 3. There's no denying it. It was so bad. And I do feel like I wonder if a lot of these new shows are having the QC team like we did. And I would hope so, but that was bad.
I think that's the first thing that gets cut in a budget. I think it's just like someone does a spot check and they're like, pictures there, audio's there, stems are there for audio mixes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's and I don't think it's a person's role. I think it's something added to someone else's job.
Yep.
Honestly.
Level 3.
Level 3. Not even part of our breakdown, but level 3.
And then obviously Twilight. I don't think it's a level 3. I think the doll was a level 3.
Yes.
If they had left the doll in, that would have been a level 3.
Yeah.
This is a level 2.
I agree. Because you're setting yourself up for failure with the description of the character in the first place. I don't think anything they would have done would have looked good. And we already know one thing they tried looked worse.
So I guess that's their fix. It's like it went from a level 3 to a level 2.
It's a lesser of two evils. Look, we downgraded the QC level, so I'll give them a pass. It's still a 2, but we noticed it.
Renesmee sure is evil. Sorry, Chuck Esme.
Chuck Esme,
evil.
thank you. Chuck Esme.
Yeah, that version of it.
Yes.
And then Scorpion King. I'm sorry, it's a level 3 for me.
3, I agree.
Ugly. It's so ugly.
It's a 3 because it's ugly.
It's ugly. Yeah, no, that's
bad. It's the only thing people know that movie for. So it's a level 3. Like we've said it before about other things. If the mistake is the only thing you know about a piece of media, it's a level 3. I know nothing of anything else that happens in that movie.
No.
And I don't need to.
No.
I don't need to. That's all I want to know. I'm good.
Very true. Very true. Next up, we have Harry Potter with Grop.
I still think it's a 3.
I think he's like a 2 for me, and I think the only reason is because he wasn't throughout like the whole movie. He's in like part
scene.
of it.
Yeah.
It's not like the biggest character.
No, but
he's ugly too, but like it wasn't shut the film down, this is bad kind of deal for me.
I just think like those movies cut out so much in the books because they have to. I mean they're turning it into a TV show now where they can easily like keep in more stuff, and I think with the way that shows are going quality-wise, like hopefully if they do grow up again, it'll look better. The rest of the CG was good enough. Even for the time period, this was just bad. Like, it stuck out of that movie as being
bad. It ruined the magic for you, Lisa.
It did. There's other things that ruin the magic for people now about that franchise.
I know.
But
as a kid,
that was the first little, like, maybe the magic isn't always so magical. You know?
Maybe there isn't magic.
Maybe the magic's not real. Maybe the magic is the friends we made along the way.
Grop. If that's the friend we made, I would be like,
no, I'm not friends with that monster.
Maybe I don't want to go to Hogwarts.
No. Everything else that happens is fine. Giant snakes, actual trolls in bathrooms, whatever. But if Grop's there, count me out. I'm ripping up my letter.
I'm out.
I'm out. See ya.
Cats. You said if they had buttholes, it wouldn't be so bad for you, but
be a 2.5 if they had buttholes.
Yeah.
It's a 3 for James Corden alone.
It's a 3, man. It's a 3.
It's bad.
Brutal.
I don't think there's more to say about it. Buttholes.
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 Sorry, I missed one. The Thing. The Thing for me is
a 3 for me.
3 for you? It's a 2 for me. Just because I'm like, I would have liked for it to be more practical, but I'm also like, it's not the worst thing I've seen, so I'm kind of...
No, I'm putting it as a 3 personally, just because of what I said when we were like in the thick of the discussion. Just because like you're remaking a classic film that did pretty much everything practically, to reshoot it practically only to make it worse by going back and actually replacing it with CG that made it look bad.
Yeah.
Like, the decision to do that is just like, no.
Mm-hmm.
I would have rather have seen, well, I would rather they not do the remake. But, you know, I think it would have been better if they'd done the practical, and I think that was a bad move. And I think the movie would have maybe done better and been better received if they had not replaced everything with CG.
Fair take. Fair take. So now face replacements. So starting off with If I Stay, I think 2.5 for me, maybe.
I agree. I was gonna say I would say If I Stay is a 2.5 and I, Tonya is a 2.
Yeah.
Because they're both pretty bad, but I think like we talked about, there's a certain degree of things to keep in mind when your actors are supposed to have specific skills that are supposed to be so exceptional to the character they're playing that you know they just can't do.
Mm-hmm.
So, or like anyone can do it. Wouldn't matter really who you cast. They're not an Olympic skater or they're not a professional cello player.
Yeah.
So
it's more forgivable, like, when something like that happens. And I think in both instances, like, it's noticeable, but I don't think it, like, ruins the movie.
No, I mean, If I Stay, I think almost nobody watched it anyway. I haven't seen it, but I've seen that scene and some of the other scenes because I was curious what the rest of the movie looked like without having to sit through the whole thing. I have seen, and the rest of the movie is good. It doesn't really take away from it. It's just one of those things where you're watching it and you kind of anticipate when those skating scenes are coming up for any of the actors who are doing skating. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, how are they going to do this? Mm-hmm. So you're kind of paying extra attention to how they're doing it because you know it's not going to be Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be scrutinized anyway. And I just think like you have to kind of go in with that suspension of disbelief of knowing that there's going to be some sort of post trickery to the best of their ability to try and make it as convincing as possible. And I think that's just the best they could do.
Yeah, exactly.
Without Margot Robbie being a professional Olympic ice skater. So.
Truth. And again, we worked in visual effects, so like still want that to be a job, still want there to be reasons to do,
human error is part of the charm of AI not taking over.
Yeah.
So we might poke holes at these mistakes, but honestly, I'd rather still see stuff like this, even in flawless movies, than know that a machine generated everything without actual people.
Yeah. People need to do the work.
They do.
This one, not a big deal for me.
This might also be a level 1 for me.
Yeah. I think if something like that happened in a new movie, like if there was a frame that something was gone in a movie today or closer today, it would be inexcusable because you are going through it and you should be QCing it digitally.
It's a faster render to fix something like that now with modern technology than it would have been back in the day. And because, again, it's one of the few movies that you can watch now and it's still so good because of, some of it is practical too, right? It's not all CG.
Yeah.
So that definitely helps its longevity. But it's we don't give a lot of things level 1. I'm giving it a 1 because it's so not noticeable unless you're looking for it, which is the best kind of QC mistake to have in a film if you're going to have any.
Yeah.
So I think this is the second one that I've ever delegated.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe me too. But again, if it was, I think it only is excusable because it was the 90s.
If it was a Jurassic World, inexcusable.
Yeah. that's very inexcusable.
Yeah.
And I would rate it way higher.
Oh, yeah.
Alien Romulus, for me, not as bad because it didn't take me out of the movie. I still really, really liked it. Also, the other CGI in the movie, like all the space, like when they're in space, all the space environments.
Well, I was looking it up after I watched it, and they shot it on the same film that they shot the first movie on to try and make it as seamless as possible. And they tried to get as much, even with like the xenomorphs and things like that, as much as they could from the original production to make the continuity better, to make the overall production, everything. They tried to bring as many tricks in from the original film as they could.
I'm still like, either a 1 or a 2. It's not a big deal for me.
I'm going to give it a 2 purely because they went back and fixed it. I think that's what...
So even they called themselves out on there.
Yeah, they're like, you know what?
True.
We could have... We're going to fix that. We're going to do it better because we can do it better. Because you got to realize, too, if they're using scans from, like, The Hobbit, like, that's a whole thing they have to buy rights for. So it's not out of the realm of possibility if they thought of maybe doing that earlier. And then we don't have the budget for it. And then they watch the final product. And they're like, you know what? We're going to find the budget for that.
For a movie that, like, overall looked so good. Like, they didn't want it to stand out as much as it did.
Yeah.
Still did, but...
The character's also not... He's a big part of the movie. He's not in the whole movie.
Yeah.
So he's part of a reason. He's an inciting character for how another character develops through the film. So his presence is important, but his physical presence is not necessary for any other like amount of the movie than it was already in. So when he's there, it's understandable that you want him to look as good as possible, which again, the Jaws argument. Show as much as you need to show in the pivotal scenes, and then beyond that, like, don't show anything if you don't have to.
And last one, Avatar for me is a 3. For a movie that's so beautiful, I'm like, you dropped the ball on that, and I don't understand how.
Yeah, it just feels like it's because it's such a big pivotal scene, even though it's at the end of the movie. Like,
yeah, close up on her face, an emotional moment. First time they're like actually touching like real person to real person. Yeah. In a fantasy movie. Yeah. But you know
real
what
person
I mean?
to real CG person.
Yeah. But it should have been more accurate.
Yeah.
Showing his little body in her arms, that was accurate. And then to immediately cut to another shot where his hand is the same size as her hand didn't make sense.
Well, and that's also the thing, kind of what we were talking about before with the I, Tonya. Like you're set up to see that it's Margot Robbie before it's the body double, and then the things they had to improve on. You're seeing they're setting up the size difference in a different framed of a shot, and then you're going into something that then doesn't follow what you just saw. So it's even more jarring in that respect because you're like, hang on, I just saw that he's super tiny, and now what you're showing me now doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I wanted to, because that was kind of the end, but I realized there was something I wanted to add to this, and I forgot.
Damn it, Janae, this is going to be 2 hours now.
No, I'm sorry. It's just one last thing.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be interesting to say what we think could win for...
Oh, Best Picture. Or just the big awards.
Well, I was going to say just because this episode's about CGI and about... So we could do best visual, like see which one we think should win best visual effects.
Yeah.
All right, I'm on the same page now. Okay. So the nominees are for best visual effects at
in
the
a motion
Oscars.
picture.
In a motion picture. So we got Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Wicked, Better Man, and Alien Romulus, which we talked about today. So yeah, I think out of those, I haven't seen all of them. I've seen Dune Part 2, I've seen Wicked, and I've seen Alien Romulus. I have not seen the Planet of the Apes movie or Better Man.
I have only seen Wicked and Alien Romulus. So
I think if out of the ones I have actually seen, if I were to pick personally, I think it could either go to Dune or Alien Romulus. I have some gripes with Wicked. I loved Wicked. I loved the film. Mm-hmm. I think the set design, beautiful.
Yeah.
They did a beautiful job.
And it's nominated for production design, I believe.
Yeah, I think it should absolutely win for that. Not so certain about visual effects. There were a couple moments that I was a bit like, could have been better.
It's hard to make flying monkeys look good. You have three movies on here that are nominated for monkeys. For CG monkeys.
True.
That's wild.
Which one's the best monkey? Who will be the best monkey?
That's this whole category, which is the best monkey.
I'll just see who's the best monkey, really.
Want it not be any of the movies with monkeys that wins. It's Alien Romulus or Dune Part 2, which honestly I think it is between those ones.
Yeah, because again, like as we said today, Alien Romulus, the only bad takeaway with the CGI was just that face replacement, but like everything else in that movie was amazing. The space, the actual alien creatures, the effects for like anything to do with guns, flares, everything. Looked great. I think what will win, like if I'm filling out my poll for what I just think they would pick, I think it's going to be Dune. Yeah. Because I don't think Dune actually will really win for a lot else.
I think it's nominated for a lot else. Because it's a sequel too, right?
It's weird because Dune 1 took home a lot. I'm not sure this will, but I think it could take this home. So I guess we'll see. I know, Jack, you can't speak into the microphone, but do you agree, not agree?
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Dune? Yeah? No?
Maybe?
He's undecided. Aw. Well,
that's fair. I don't know. I think I'm always so bad at Oscar polls. Like I always think I'm like, I bet this is how it's gonna go. And then I'm watching, I'm like, fuck, of course it was that one.
Year of the Monkey.
It's not. It's Year of the Snake, I think.
It's the snake.
Might as well be the Year of the Monkey though.
Well, I guess we'll see next week which one gets it.
Yeah, I'm interested to find out, honestly. I mean, all of the awards, I'm interested to see what's going to win. I probably won't watch the Oscars, but I'll definitely be watching social media in real time to see what wins.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was our very fun episode on...
Hopefully. About bad CG or understandably... mistaken CG? I don't know.
Well, thanks for listening
and watching. Hopefully there's more Jack next week or next time.
Oh.
No? Yeah.
Are you quitting? Are you quitting on us?
He's out. He's going on strike.
Oh.
Quality Control Chicks podcast is produced and co-hosted by Lisa Cumming
and Janae Perez.
Audio mix and master by Jack Rudy.
You can follow us on Instagram at Quality Control Chicks Pod for BTS, bonus content, and clips.
You can give us a watch or listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to your favorite shows.